Hello.
Hello, what's up, man? How are you?
What's going on? Scott, right?
Yeah, Scott, and yeah, I wanted to clear that up. Am I saying your name right? Sylvie?
Perfect.
Oh man, okay, cool. Is that and let's just get into this, dude. I'm super excited to be here talking to you.
Yeah, man,
You've
same.
you've kind of like I don't know, you like popped into my life on Twitter just kind of like at a really random time, but like I feel like since you have like so much more has stood out to me in my life just by
Same.
you simply pointing out my life path number, right? And like me thinking I'm on the wrong you're me thinking I'm on a certain life path and I'm really on a totally different one, and shit has just stood out to me, and I just think that's super cool.
Yeah, I was gonna ask you something about that too, actually, because we're all really on the right life path usually, but I was gonna ask you like how you were before I told you that and whether that actually matched up to what I told you. But
Um,
yeah,
Honestly, like it was like I knew. Okay, so I knew. I think I thought I was a six or some. I don't even remember now because
yeah, I
I've
remember you saying that. Yeah,
completely forgot about it. But I remember always feeling like, I would read about certain things, but it never really added up. And you pointed it out to me, and you didn't even know the year I was born or anything, and you were like, "Are you sure?" And like and we had never really talked or anything. I think we had started interacting just before that. And now, like you pointed out, and I added up, I'm 33, and things just make sense. It's
yeah.
weird, man. So that's definitely like the kind of stuff I want to get into today with you is like numerology, life path numbers. You seem very knowledgeable and all that. Before we
Thank you.
get into that, I would love to know though, like, so you live in Michigan, right?
Yeah. I've been in America since I was 6.
Okay, that was kind of where are you from?
I'm from Romania.
Romania.
Yep.
Okay, I mean I just kind of was guessing Silviu wasn't like an American
No,
name.
no.
So did you move here with both of your parents, or like what did that look like? The move to America.
So yeah, my dad won the lottery, it's called there, which is basically a visa lottery.
Okay.
And he had this big American dream of coming and seeing skyscrapers, basically, the movies, uh,
Yeah.
the New York movies. And we ended up in Detroit after winning the visa because we went out on a risk. We sold our house there, our apartment. And funny thing is actually like 5 years later, which really pissed him off, the price of the apartments actually went up 10 times. And we came here, we just on like I think that we were assigned a family or something like that. Or I'm not even sure how it went, but it was a Romanian family that had been here for a while, and we ended up staying with them for like 3 months. We had moved in Detroit, in the heart of Michigan, basically. And my dad was just completely disappointed because the first thing you see when entering Detroit is not skyscrapers, but like a giant tire because it's where the automotive industry is.
Yeah, yeah. I've been to Detroit one time, and so I'm from Seattle. I've kind of traveled all over the United States. Been to the big cities,
Oh, cool.
um, but Detroit is not one that kind of stands out in my mind as
Right.
one I would like to go back to. Like
No, yeah.
it, it's more like on the grimy side, I would say, or like it's past its prime, I guess is what I should say.
I completely agree. Yeah. They pretty much turned it into a place you don't want to live currently.
Yeah, man, it's sad. It's sad because it was such a thriving city, and the automotive industry, I guess, kind of dispersed from there, and the economy just seems to have just kind of gone to shit.
Yeah. Yeah. And there's a reason for that, and it's called corruption, but we won't go into
Yeah.
all
Oh,
that.
yeah. So how old are you now?
So I'm currently 24.
24. Okay, cool. So, so let's get back to that numerology stuff because I'm super excited to hear about it and hear what you know and really learn. My understanding of it is very vague, but like I kind of was saying with the life path numbers, once I like learn about it, like stuff starts making sense
Yeah.
and
Hmm.
it all adds up. And I just
literally.
think that's awesome. So how did you get into numerology, and like what kind of triggered you to get on this path that you're on?
Yeah, so it started for me with basically my desire to understand people and understand myself better. So that led me to things like psychology and philosophy and just thinking outside of the box. And I was kind of shy growing up, and I wanted to obviously form better relationships. So what I first got into was astrology, really, and the whole sun sign thing, and I started to make sense of the world a little bit by understanding that there are certain characteristics to people, not necessarily that people don't have their own personality, but especially based on like how they're raised and their family, but they fall into like these categories of how they may act and how they may react, and a unevolved and an evolved side of their personalities. For example, like an unevolved Gemini, like me, would be overly anxious, overly in their head, but an evolved one can think logically, coherently, and make a good decision. Um, but that led me down to having more spiritual experiences, and it wasn't really till 2020, which led me to actually learning about Chinese astrology. And in Chinese astrology, the year 2020 is actually the year of the rat, and that is symbolic of learning and change. And if you notice, a lot of the years that end in 20, like 1820s, 1920s, 2020, there were plagues, also symbolic of the rat, which carry diseases in a way, or they're able to survive throughout these diseases. And it kind of led me to these various groups on Twitter and on the internet while researching this stuff, because I just got flooded with all this new information. And I was able to discover from Chinese astrology, which was also very accurate, numerology. And I found out that everyone's got a certain life path, and then you can add up all the numbers in their birthday. And I was like, wow, let's calculate my own. And man, when I calculated my own, I was just blown away, because I'm a life path 7, and that stands basically for, I think you may know, because your wife is also a life path 7. That's how I found her.
Yes.
I saw it in her bio, and I was like, oh, life path 7. She seems really smart. I gotta follow her. It just stands for people that like to accumulate knowledge, basically sages, and especially if they have like a 33 in their life where the 33 is prevalent in their spiritual development, they're going to want to teach it down the line and help other people learn about it.
So just jumping off of
Yeah.
that, the whole 7 thing, I have found. So real quick, I guess, tell me real quick about the 7 and the 33. Go a little bit deeper on that, because that's something that you pointed out to me, and ever since you did that, I've kind of told you, but like the amount of 7s in my life, it's crazy, and the connection that I have with the 7s in my life is deeper than any other connection I have.
Yeah.
It's more profound. And and it's something where, like my wife being a 7, and we never really knew that, but for the first 4 or 5 years we were together, she's always it's always been this thing where I want to learn from her.
Mm.
It hasn't all made sense, but it's something where like I soak in the information so well, and I'm learning constantly just watching her and observing and interacting. So go a little bit deeper on that and kind of why that is.
Yeah. So I actually just had a realization from you just talking about that. And I know 33 is definitely the master teacher, because any number past 9, or there's 3 numbers past 9, 11, 22, and 33. Those are master numbers, and those are considered like the graduate programs in a university, right? So 1 through 9 would be the undergrad, and if you decide to incarnate in like 11, 22, or 33, you'd be basically like going to graduate school. But what I just realized is the 7 is kind of like the master student, or has the ability to become the master student, especially when paired up with a master teacher. And that's why that relationship can be so symbiotic, because obviously the student teacher relationship is beautiful. But yeah, I mean, once I told you about that, I started attracting more 33s into my life too. Because funnily enough, the guy that was running like this whole group of numerology is actually himself a life path 33. So the more I started studying them, that number, I realized these people are usually meant to have some sort of following. Like Jesus was life path 33. Um, is just a master teacher that the soul chooses because they would like to further information. And since this world that we live in is basically there's an inorganic and organic matrix, but they both run on numbers, right?
Yeah.
And the soul chose to basically incarnate in that specific number because it had a specific goal, and that would be to teach.
And I mean, see, and that just makes so much sense. And as you're speaking of this, I'm actually like currently talking. I just submitted like an application. I want to, and I'm actually thinking about changing my career path
Sweet.
to get a teaching degree. Because that's something that in the back of my mind is always called to me, and I just kind of avoided it because I make good money now, and you know I wouldn't be making as good of money, but like it seems more of like a purpose to me, you know, and it's crazy that you say that. It's just kind of like another validation of where I'm going right now. It's crazy. So, and you were talking about reincarnating. So clearly you believe in reincarnation, correct?
Yeah, I don't know how I feel about that whole subject because that would imply that either we're stuck in some kind of loop or that we choose to come back. And I can see that if we choose to come back, the whole being stuck in a loop seems a bit of a fear mongering tactic or a method of control. But the way like a numerologist might tell you is that, oh, you got to start at 1 and you got to go all the way through 9, and if you graduate undergrad school, basically you make it through to 11 and 22 and 33. But to be honest, I think we just pick and choose. But each number basically has dominion over the previous numbers. So like a life path 6, for example, won't be able to access the same amount of knowledge as a 7 would, just because they're not there yet, right? But they probably could have easily managed living a life path 5 life, or a 4 or a 3 or a 2 or a 1, because those are basically like the foundations.
See, and so now you're talking about something that I do believe. So I do believe in
Cool.
reincarnation. I believe, you know, your soul has chosen to come here. You know, I believe there's worlds all over the
Yeah.
universe. But I believe, you know, that we have come here because as human beings, there are very specific lessons that our soul can learn. And what you're saying about, you know, what you were kind of saying about choosing to reincarnate as certain life path numbers, you know, and I can see that because you're choosing to come here as this specific number so that you can learn very specific lessons and how to kind of further your progress. You know, because I that is so cool to me
Yeah.
because
And it
I
goes
mean
deeper.
I don't even know. Yeah, and I don't even know how to explain it. It's just kind of this thing that came into my head one day, and it's like, oh my gosh, that makes so much sense. You know, like so
You know how I
reincarnating.
know that you weren't, sorry, just to cut you off for a second. How I know that
Go no
you
go
weren't
go.
a 6?
How did you know
Because
that?
I had a good feeling that you and your wife get along extremely well. And I'm like, there's no way that's possible between a 6 and a 7. Because a 6 is simply seeking to find their soulmate and just settle down and doesn't care about anything else. But like, I could tell you were involved in knowledgeable things and you appreciated knowledge. So I'm like, it's gotta be a step further than that, you know?
So okay, so you say that. So how do you see life path numbers playing into
Oh
relationships
yeah,
then?
yeah, that's a good question.
You know what numbers don't go together? What numbers work like you know in a majestic
Hmm.
way?
So I was mainly under the I don't want to say belief because I don't hold beliefs as full ideas, but under the conception that basically any numbers that add up to 9 together are the most harmonious because 9 is the number of divine union. For example, a 7 and a 2, 7 and 11, an 8 and a 1. But learning what I found, or seeing like what I've discovered throughout, especially after meeting you and noticing the relationship, between you and your wife. And that's why I like this type of stuff, because I can study the relationships between people. It seems that it goes farther than that, because I've recently actually just met a girl too, and she's a life path 7 like me, and that's actually the best compatibility for the numbers 1 through 9 apparently, just because we're so similar. But obviously there's a distinct relationship between the 7 and the 33. But I guess the foundation would be that the numbers that add up to 9 are best suitable.
Okay. Okay. And then, so those are the best suitable. Is there, I, I think you kind of touched on it already, but what like specific numbers, like, if say, I'm out in the dating world and I know someone else is a life path, like a 2 or a 4 or 6, like what numbers don't go together?
Yeah, I don't know. I've yet to discover like a major relationship between that, but I know just from studying my own that the numbers right next to each other usually won't go together, because let's say a 7, that's just a 7, right? No really like spiritual development. They're just 7. They're not really aware of themselves. They like to be alone. They like to dive into knowledge. An 8 is all about working hard and making a lot of money. So their exterior, they're focused on the exterior, while a 7 is focused on the interior. So already you can see the clash there. A 6 focused more on family life, focused on settling down. 7 more than likely to be alone. Um, let's say a 4. A 4 is all about control, the law, likes to set rules. A 5 is all about freedom. We're currently in a 5-year, which I'll get into a little later, how to calculate that in like personal years too. But that's all about freedom and travel. So a 4 and a 5, even though they add up to 9, I don't see how they would get along, to be honest, unless they're just very willing to compromise.
Okay. So, and then just so what you just touched on during that, I mean, all that different stuff, it makes sense with, I'm kind of playing through my head if, some of the people I know that are different life path numbers, and like that just plays in. So you said real quick that, different years can play different roles in people's lives. And that is one of the topics that I remember listening to a podcast, this guy talking about numerology, and he touched on that. And I remember thinking back over the years and how those different specific years really stood out to me. How does that kind of play a role? And depending on your life path number, does the role change for each specific person?
So there's such a thing as a personal year, and then there's the overall year that we subscribe to as a collective. But the overall year is based on the calendar that we all associate with. So these numbers all run basically on our collective consciousness that we choose. If it was, say, a different calendar, then we'd be based off that calendar because we all accepted that. We all gave our permission. But let's say 2020, that was the overall year 4, because 2 plus 0 plus 2 plus 0, you get 4. But now, to figure out your personal year, you would have to add the month and your day of birth. So just month and day. So for me, it would be like 531. So 5 plus 3 plus 1 would be 9. And then you add that to the year in which you just had your birthday. So in 2020, my personal year was 4, and it still is until my next birthday. And the way that affects your life, basically, it's similar to the life path numbers. So if you're in a personal year 1, let's say, it's best for you to be more aggressive, take more risks, display more male qualities. 2 would be the opposite, be more female qualities. 3 is like creative expression. 4, control. 5, which we're all currently in a overall year, is freedom, travel, and that's why they're trying to kind of take it away, because the rulers, I'm saying, the people in control, the more that they try to in a 5-year, the more likely there is to be a revolt or some kind of uprising.
Oh, wow. Oh, man. This is
it gets deep, yeah. And it goes even deeper than the life path numbers. There's other numbers. There's such a thing as a solar's number, an expression number, a personality number, and these are found by calculating the vowels in your name, there's a specific number set for them, which you can look up online. And the other ones are
So
by
you're
their
saying,
letters.
even aside from the day we were born to the year for figuring out your life path number, there's even like it's all. Are you kind of saying like our name was maybe not so much chosen by our
Exactly.
parents, but like kind of
Excellent
given to us
observation.
by the
Yeah, or by your
universe
soul,
or
which
by
is
our
the
soul,
universe. Yeah,
right? Okay, that could have, which could have spoke to our parents when they were giving us our name
pretty
type
much.
of thing, and we were, man, holy smokes. How does that, since we're on that topic, how does like your name, like you were saying, is that the personality?
So yeah, there's like I said, there's the personality, the solar's number, and the expression, something like that. Expression number, and these are calculated by the vowels in your name and then the overall letters. There's a numerical value for each, I believe. But once you start figuring out your life path number, which is basically what you're meant to do in this life, what your soul came here to do, then there's a solar's number, which is like very similar, I'd say, but a bit different. Um, but also it's kind of like a soul's expression, or what a soul would like to do and in what way it'd like to do it. And then personality would kind of align more like to the sun sign in astrology. And then expression would be kind of like the rising sign in astrology, how other people see you. So that's why always I've kind of, or I actually just recently had this realization. What if numerology and astrology aren't really that separate, but they're just like another language, so a different way of expressing something? Because I always thought like, oh, I got this, and then I got this piece of the puzzle, and I got to work them all together. But what if it's just a different language?
Almost like kind of like a language of the
Exactly. Yeah.
universe type of
Yeah.
thing, something that can be spoken to aliens, if you will, and they'll
Right.
understand it. Oh
Or at least
man,
for you to
that
understand, to help you remember. Because when we come here, we obviously have a veil of forgetfulness, and we don't know what's going on. We're just born, and it's like we're in this giant game. There's clues everywhere. We just got to wake up to them.
man, and see, in that point right there is where it really kind of starts resonating with me on a very deep level, because um, I was always hesitant, I guess, to get into astrology, and all this numerology stuff, because the household I was raised in was more of like a Christian type
Right.
of upbringing. Um, I stepped away from that, when I was 18, and I'd say by the time I was like 25, 26, I became extremely intrigued and fascinated by all this stuff. And I've slowly been breaking those grips from my childhood and learning more and more. And as I've already said, everything is starting to make so much sense. It's crazy, man. Like, uh, and then that leads me into the
Mm-hmm.
angel number thing. Ever since I've kind of opened my mind more to all of this numerology, astrology, everything, I fully believe in angel numbers and their meanings, and seeing them all over the place. Like, what can you tell me about angel
Yeah, I
numbers?
mean, I've always kind of noticed the triple digit numbers, but I guess what really put me on my path and what actually even led me to you was the number 33. And that number just started popping up everywhere. I'm like, what's going on? I can't shake this number. Every time I look at the clock, it's 5:33, 6:33, 7:33, 8:33. Like, how many times before it's not a coincidence? I never really believed in coincidence to begin with. But that number just set me down like a whole new path. And that number, by the way, stands for Christ consciousness, which is basically your higher spiritual calling to develop your spiritual self and to even teach it.
Yeah, and something that gets very twisted with people when you bring that up to them. Yeah, like it stands for Christ consciousness, and everybody automatically assumes
Oh
Jesus
yeah,
Christ and
right.
religion, and that's something. The first time I heard it, I was like, oh gosh, what? Like, I'm not Christian, and it's something that stands out, and it makes a lot of sense once you like learn the real
Yeah,
meaning of
because
it.
you got to understand, Christ consciousness wasn't just Christ. There are many different teachers on this earth and many different cultures. Why do you think all the holy books are so similar. People study one book and think that's the tell-all. Well, try studying everything. Try getting a different perspective from everything, and then incorporate that and try to form an opinion. When you visit just one country, you think the whole world's the same. But when you travel, then you can get experience of the world and see that there's different types of people. Oh, they act differently. They're raised differently. Same with the books. And with the Christ consciousness. There was Buddha. There was even Gandhi was part of the Christ consciousness. Every person that sought to help humanity spiritually was part of that Christ consciousness, and anyone can be part of that if they simply choose to do so. Because what many people don't know is that the Christ is within us. I'm sure there was a Christ that walked this earth and possibly died on the cross, but the Christ is always within us. We have a deep spiritual truth within us, and it's called our intuition and our cosmic intelligence.
And and kind of like we've already stated, but the biggest thing, like, I guess I want everybody to be able to take from that is that it doesn't have to be the Jesus Christ that everybody thinks about, that especially here in America, you say the word Christ in America and that's all anybody can think of. And that's one of the biggest things that I've learned, especially over the last couple of years, is, having that Christ consciousness within you. It's a very powerful thing, and once you can tap into it, it's almost like the possibilities are limitless.
Yeah. And we'll talk more a little bit about that later, but let's get back to the angel numbers to tie it all back. When you start noticing certain things, usually it'll start with like 1111, and that's kind of like the alarm clock, like, hey, something's going on. Like 4 digits, 4 ones always popping up in front of you. It even resembles that gateway of like 4 pillars and you stepping through it. And it's like, hey, wake up, wake up, wake up. You're noticing stuff. Yeah, it's real. And then you get into other things like 111, 222, 333, 44. And then when angels can see that you're actually listening and you're communicating with them, they'll start sending you what seems like random numbers, like 73, 45. And they'll just pop up, pop up, pop up. Sometimes, yes, it can be your brain choosing what to notice. Because, hey, you say, oh, I noticed this number, I'm going to see it multiple times now. But how many times can you see it before it's not your brain? Or how many times do you need to see it before it's not your brain? But there's even a whole website. Like each 3-digit sequence has a meaning. For example, 111 means you are currently manifesting that, or your thoughts are manifesting very quickly. Be careful what you think about. 222 can mean don't worry, everything's turning out all right. Trust that there's a higher plan. 333 usually has to do with your spirit guides. Be aware that we're around you. Ask for our help. 444 can mean you're divinely connected, protected. 555, something is changing in your life, or you're asked to make a change. 666, you're focused too much on the material world. 777 is actually a form of congratulations from guides that you're on your right spiritual path, and it's an urge to keep going. 888 signifies abundance. You're welcoming abundance into your life. 999, you're completing something. 1111 can mean something regarding relationships. You're welcoming relationships. You're awakening. And then everything else, basically whatever you can find that relates to it. Always watch your thoughts when noticing these things. What am I doing? What was I thinking about? And then apply the meaning and see how it resonates with you. But you'll know, like intuitively, you'll always know because the truth is inside you. And anything that makes you contract, that makes you tense up, more than likely is not true for you. But anything that expands, opens up your heart, that is the truth, and your body is responding accordingly.
Wow. It does go deep. It goes very deep. And as you're like going through that, I'm just thinking back, and it almost seems like these numbers, they come in waves for me, right? Like, especially, I think a lot for me, like a lot of it did start on the clock, right? Seeing the same time every single day, sometimes twice a day. you know, 555, 444, you know, and seeing these numbers over and over again. And now it's, when I go about my day, sometimes it seems like I go long periods of time without seeing any. But then I'll see numbers like 33, 44 or whatever, just over and over and over
Yeah.
again out in the real world. License plates, street numbers, building addresses. And it's, for me, it seems like they come in big waves. And like you were saying, it's almost like a love brought into my heart when I see them, because it's telling me like I am on the right path. And I don't remember what they all mean yet, but like every time I see them, I look them
Yeah.
up just to read it again, and it usually correlates with my life, and it's crazy.
It is. It
Just
gives you that
it's
feeling of
mind blowing,
connectedness, right?
man.
You don't feel so alone anymore.
Yeah, absolutely. And it helps bring into that realization that it does feel like this whole world is developed on numbers. Everything has a
Yeah.
value
Yeah.
to
I
it.
mean, they're definitely messages, and there's there's even like, I didn't even get into like the days. You make a life path out of the days, and the matrix we live in, the organic one, you can use it to your advantage in terms of manifestation. And like certain energies are present during certain days that you can seek for either rest or working or silence and reflection. So the more that you're open to it, the more that you're willing to communicate, the more messages you'll receive. Like I've been trying like directly communicate with my spirit guides. Like, okay, guys, I get it. The numbers, yeah, cool. But let's have some direct communication. Let's have some telepathy going, you know. And it's all about hope, and you are. So
Right, right. And I absolutely agree. The whole guides thing, that's something that it used to not resonate with me. And as I feel I have personally become more awoken, in the last year, especially, it's almost like I get messages from them more, and sometimes it's not even through numbers or physical signs that I can see in front of my eyes. I'm starting to have more messages just sent directly to me,
mhm.
telepathically in my head, and I know that that's not my mind talking or my own thoughts. It's like this. It's just
That's
it's a
profound.
message, like, yeah, you're doing the right thing, or go chase this, and that's honestly like this podcast thing, right? Like it's something I've wanted to do for a really long time. One morning, I was literally driving to work. And that specific morning, I had the radio turned off. I was just sitting in silence in my car driving. And it was the thought of starting a podcast popped into my head. And a voice just came into my head. And it's one, like I said, it wasn't my own thoughts. And it was
Yeah.
all it said was do it. Like, go make it happen. And it's something I've followed. And man, like, the joy that it has brought my life, the happiness, the interactions with other people in the world that have listened to the podcast and gave me feedback. It's crazy how me listening to that it's changed my life, really.
I, I think that's
It's crazy, man.
very
There's so
profound
much
realization
craziness.
that you had, because just to have that split second of awareness that, hey, what if this isn't my thought? What if I'm not the sole creator of my thoughts, and that I'm tapping into something bigger than me? Because I actually only had that like a few weeks ago. Like, I mean, I was aware that you could tap into collective consciousness, but you can hear your own voice inside your head. And I'm just like, wait a second. I was at the gym. Wait, am I always just talking to myself? Because like I'll talk to myself, but where am I getting these answers from? Because they just pop into my head. And it's funny how like when you just turn off the radio a little bit and you decide to just sit in silence and stop being so distracted all the time, that's when you have the best ideas, when you're most open to receiving. I mean, you look at Tesla. He got all his formulas, all his equations, all his answers in his dreams, or when he's in the shower, or when he's walking outside, because he understood the universe. He understood frequency, vibrations. That's what thoughts are. You have to make yourself available to it. You have to raise your vibration, raise your frequency, and tune into the collective consciousness. And I recently heard something very interesting that like most people that from where the saying comes about us using only 10% of our brain is the fact that most people are so out of touch with the right side of their brain, their intuition, their creativity, that they only use the left side of their brain. And that's all great. Um, Logic, calculations, um, they're very important. It's kind of like the hard drive that we have in the computer, right? We need it, we process what we have, the memory that we already have, but the collective consciousness is like infinite amount of memory. If we tried stuffing that into our little brain, we wouldn't be able to hold that, we'd explode. So we tap into that with our right side of our brain, our intuition, and then we can analyze that with our own memory, right? We hold what we need and we throw out what we don't. But usually whatever we tap into, we'll take because it's good for us.
Oh man, it's extremely good for us. It's kind of like I was saying. It's all those everything's there. All the answers are there, and it's just learning to tap into it. And I mean, do you think our brains? Do you think our brains do only use about 10% then? And like, what do you think that looks like as far as like what do you think the whole 100% of our brain really looks like?
Yeah,
I
that's
mean,
a
do
good
you have
question.
thoughts on that?
I think
Like,
100% of our brain is the universe because we're just sitting
okay,
here looking up at the stars, and meanwhile the stars are looking down at us. And it's I don't know if you heard of the concept of like a higher self. Yeah, so it's like the higher self looking
yes.
down at the lower self, and the higher self has a picture of every little other lower self in other parallel realities. And you can even tune into those parallel realities of other lower selves and other timelines. And maybe another timeline, let's say you're a painter, right? But in this timeline, you're a writer. Like, you know what? I want to learn how to paint. I'm going to tune in in a quantum fashion to the other version of myself. So that'll connect you. I'm not sure how it works. I'm guessing through the higher self since they're all interconnected, and you can literally communicate with that version of yourself and learn and download that. But I believe, or I have the idea of that um our brains are only as powerful as we let them be. So if I hold the belief that I'm stupid, I'm not going to be able to learn as efficiently. But if I believe that I can tap into a collective conscious and unconscious and access any information that I may need and become whoever I want to be, then I'm going to, simply because I have that awareness.
Man, it's like the
Exactly.
sky's the limit once you really open your mind. It's crazy that you say that because just in the last, I grew up my whole life. I was never an artist. I never gave myself even the time of day to really sketch because I just felt
Couldn't do it.
like
Yeah.
you can't do this. Like you're horrible at it. Like don't even waste your time. Don't waste the paper and the pencil lead. Just during when this pandemic kind of started, back in March, I was like, I really want to learn how to draw. I want to be artistic, and I started thinking like, oh dude, I can do this. Like, why can't I do
Right.
this? I'd see people paint and I'd be like, I can do that. And it's art, painting and drawing has been
I
this new
noticed. Yeah.
thing that I
Cool.
started
Cool
doing,
drawings.
and it's like I'm blowing myself away though. I'm like, where did this
Yeah.
come from? Like, I can't believe
It's
that
awesome.
I'm doing this, but like you're saying, it's something that's always been there. And I just didn't give myself the time of day to even, think I could do it, and it's crazy the limitations that we as human beings put on ourselves and how much they hold us back
And
by
what are those
simply
based
not
on?
believing in ourselves. Yeah, honestly, I think it's other people bringing, like, for
Mm-hmm.
me it was people bringing me down when I was younger and saying, yeah, you can't do that, you suck at that. And then I that's what I hang on to for all these years. And I mean it holds me
Yeah.
back, from growing. And I think a lot of people do that and experience that, and they get stuck in their ways, and they never finish
Yeah.
growing
And
as a human
I
being.
think those people just, it's not really them. It's just that the fact that we care about that and we're fearful of what we may look like or what may happen if this happens. Every limitation, I think, is just a projection of fear. Everything that has been done should be able to be achieved, and everything that hasn't been done, just there just hasn't been found a way to achieve it. Because I believe every idea that already every idea is already possible. It already exists. Something, some way, it already happened. I don't think you can create anything outside of what's already been created or is in the collective unconsciousness or consciousness waiting for it to be created. But you never know.
Well, and that's something that I've always had a belief in is
Exactly. Yeah.
it's all there. You know, like it's most likely been done at some point, but you know, like by us simply believing that it's there and it's available for us, like we can do it over again and we can do it better. You know, like it's something we need to learn as human beings, and you know, learn how to apply it to our lives, because that's the kind of stuff that can change other people's lives around us. You know, it really gets us
Exactly.
out of ourselves and helping the collective consciousness. And that stuff's so powerful to me. It's something that I've really tapped into and really learned and I've seen. And you know, that might go into that whole life path 33 that I'm on, but like I've witnessed that, you know, I can do things, and if I show that I'm trying and giving it my all, like it affects the people around me on a deep level, you know. And like I'm seeing other people like believing in themselves
Exactly.
because I chose to believe in myself. And
Yeah.
man, so powerful. That's something, you know, like if everybody can figure out how to do that, like I can only imagine where we will be, you know, even 5 years from now. And
Yeah.
I feel like
Yeah.
that's where
I
we're
mean, more and
going.
more people are waking up, and I think the best way you can show love towards others is by living your truth, being authentic to yourself. And you have the tools at your disposition. I mean, you got life path numbers, you got astrology. Figure out who you are, what you came here to do. Listen to your heart's desires. If it's there, if it's a desire, it was given to you. You didn't just choose, yeah, I want to be a soccer player or whatever, probably, hopefully something more spiritual than that. That was just my example. But uh, it was given to you for you to pursue. Figure out if it's truly your heart desire. And if it's not, don't do it. Change something. Too many times we just believe like, oh, I made a decision, I gotta stick with it. I made my bed, I gotta lay in it. Well, I made my bed, I don't like the way it was made, so I'm gonna change it. I'm gonna get new sheets. I'm gonna do something different. It's sometimes it can take a little bit of trial and error to discover who you truly are. And by doing so and not caring what other people may think, you give other people the permission to express it themselves. Because the world would be very boring if we all just became accountants and all did the same thing. Um, what is your truth? What is your heart telling you? Because some people, their heart stops speaking for them because they stop listening to it.
Yeah, and I think you're extremely on point with all that. That's something even with me, like that I can relate to so hard, because I'm learning that, you know, I'm not on the path, the all purpose path right now, but I've been able to learn from what I've done and the journeys I've chosen to go on. And you know, now I'm realizing like, oh wait, this isn't what I'm supposed to be doing. Like, you know, like how can I change it now? That stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like a lot of people can relate to that. And that's, you know, like a big thing with this podcast is I want people to relate and realize like, oh man, like other people are experiencing the same thing I'm experiencing right now, like, and
Right.
it's not a bad thing. Like so, you know, I that stuff's so powerful. Is there anything else? Because we're almost kind of running out of time. Like I said earlier,
Yeah.
these hours they go so fast. It's crazy. Is there anything else about numerology that you really like want to say, or like, you know, that you kind of want to be known about it as kind of like, or just
Yeah,
a
sure.
little wrap up
Sure.
on the numerology
So
stuff?
I like to mention the days as well. You can add the days. So for example, today is 17th January 2021. So 1 plus 7, that would be 9. plus 5, you get 13. 1 plus 3 is 4. Today is a 4 day. Do not break the law. Don't speed. Don't do anything regarding the law that's bad. And do anything regarding the law that is good. But you can use these to your advantage. And once you figure out like what you are, man, like figure out your skills, your talents, figure out what brings joy to you. And the more joyous you are doing something, especially using your skills to help society, the more joyous the whole collective becomes. So it's just a journey.
Wow. So it's almost like you could kind of plan
Yeah.
ahead for that kind of stuff then, right? Like you could realize like, so tomorrow, so does that mean
Not
tomorrow's
always, but
automatically a
usually,
5 day?
yeah, because numbers reset sometimes.
Okay. So let's just pretend then tomorrow's a 5 day. Like what could I plan ahead for? It being a 5, like, and me wanting to plan my day out for tomorrow, like where could I plan? What could I plan to
Tomorrow, if you got like
accomplish
a
or
lot of
stay away
errands to
from?
run, a lot of places to be, that's the time to do it. You want to stack them all up and just go everywhere tomorrow. It's because 5 is freedom and traveling. You got to travel, you got to be anywhere, do it tomorrow.
Wow. So man, this stuff really is, it's a day by day. Things are always changing up. It's something where once you learn to harness the power of the power of it, like you can really it's like you could really see your life change leaps and bounds. It's there's so much out there.
Yeah.
There's so much knowledge. It's crazy, man. We've talked about so much stuff in this last uh, almost 50 minutes now, where I'm like, man, like I need to look into this stuff more, because this stuff could really,
For
like, it could
sure.
help me
The energy is there.
excel,
Like you just
you
gotta
know?
tap into it. Like even let's say you want to start a business, you want to start it on either an 8 overall day or like a 28 regular day, or even if you get a 28 overall day, oh man, that business is gonna take off because it's like the forces of the universe will come together to help you do that.
Okay. Well, then I certainly need to. I've heard someone talk about that before. Each day is a certain number, and like you can do certain things with it. But that was a few years ago, and it's something I didn't really. I kind of brushed it off because I was like, I don't know about all that. Like, but just from what I've experienced in the last year or so, like it's crazy. I believe in it, and
Mm-hmm.
I feel comfortable believing in it, because I've opened myself to it. And I keep saying it, but how
Now there's
it's so
power.
powerful, man. Like even just sitting here talking about it, it's like it's making sense to me, like so cool. So the last question I got for you is, uh, I always like to ask everybody, about life hacks, things that help you get through your days and help you grow as a person. Like what's one of your big life hack type of things that you follow in your life and you
Oh,
try
I
to
mean,
apply everywhere you
I'm
go?
sure you've heard this before, but meditation and sexual transmutation. Those are the best things, especially for a guy to be doing. Meditation for one, you're calmer, you're more focused, you're more in the moment. Your mind's not racing, you're not stressed out. And sexual transmutation, your creativity just goes way up. I mean, when you're not in pursuit of sex all the time, and that's not the only thing on your mind, you have all this extra energy. And how do you express it? Creatively. Be careful though, if you don't express it creatively, you will go out of balance from too much sexual energy, and that can destabilize you as well. But these are some really good life hacks if you're not in a good place right now, if you're suffering from anxiety or even like depressed, both of these will it's like it'll slingshot you back up to at least neutral levels, if not even joyous levels.
Yeah, and I mean, kind of as you were saying, then it really all comes down to that perfect balance that we're kind of
Right.
always in pursuit of, finding that balance to really keep that level head on a good path. Because I mean, I've seen sexual energy get out of hand even in my own life, and I've also seen where I am at a really good balance, and it's like I have so much strength in all these areas of my life, and it's like I can do anything I want.
Right. Yeah. Pretty much. I mean, the energy is
Yeah,
there.
man, that's crazy. Yeah, crazy stuff, and it's so powerful. Like, I can't wait to listen back on this, because you seriously, when you had said you're pretty well versed on all this numerology stuff, that you've studied it, this and that. Like, I was like, oh, okay, cool, sweet. We'll have a really good conversation. You seriously just unloaded so much information on everybody, like, in such a good way, like so much stuff that can really be applied and used in different people's lives in different ways. Like,
Man, I'm not. No,
thank you.
thank you, because I'm not even surprised that like I'm like connecting with you and now possibly working with you. I mean, like I always thought like, hey, I'm gonna be the guy that gets all this knowledge. I'm sure I'll find like some 33 life path that'll help me like put it out in the world. Because you guys are all
Yeah,
about that
man.
influence.
Yeah, dude, and I'm gonna do my best, because kind of like I said, I just started this podcast. I don't have a massive following on Twitter, but it's getting
Yeah,
bigger,
man, you gotta
and
start somewhere.
I'm telling you, yeah, exactly. And the people that have reached out to me, people I've never talked to, and said how awesome this podcast is, how much they enjoy it, and just saying like, man, keep going. Like, this is so cool. Like, that alone, that gets me pumped up, and I want to keep doing it, because if I can reach just one person with each of these podcast episodes and like have it change their life, then I feel like I'm doing the right
Yeah,
thing.
yeah. I mean, do what you do best, man. And like it seems like knowledge and influence is right up your alley. So
I love it. It's so intriguing to me. It's the kind of stuff that keeps me up at night. Wanting to read more, wanting to learn. It's so cool. So do you have any places people can connect with you? Social medias, YouTube channel,
yeah,
anything
I
like that?
appreciate that. Yeah, I have a Twitter, as you may know. It's awareness777, and instead of the E's in awareness, there are two threes. So it'll be awareness777, and there you can find my YouTube channel and my other social media. But my Twitter is where I usually post a lot of insights and stuff that I may be learning along the way.
Okay, cool, man. That's awesome. Thank you so much. And for everybody listening, if you want to connect with me, my Twitter is at Silas and Sunrise, and my Instagram is at Wanderers Realm. And I will get both of those handles put into the show notes for me. I'll get Sylvia's information put into the show notes as well. And reach out to us if you guys have questions about anything. I think I can speak for Sylvia. We would love to talk to you guys and
Oh, for
like
sure.
interact with you guys. And
There's already a
yeah,
big community
absolutely.
on
And
Twitter,
Sylvia,
like a spiritual community that I've just dived into and I found is amazing. You and your wife, especially.
oh yeah. Oh, dude, and I wholeheartedly agree. It's kind of a community that's really changed my life for the better. Even if it's not as much of learning, opening my mind to different perspectives and realizing, like what can help me along my path, and that stuff is awesome. I love that part of the spiritual
Right.
Twitter
Yeah.
community.
The more we help each other and the more we help ourselves, the more we help each other. So,
Yeah, absolutely, man. Well, thank you again. I madly appreciate it. I can't wait to get this out there for the whole
yeah,
world
thank
to
you, man.
hear.
It's been a pleasure.
Awesome, dude. I'll talk to you later. And for everybody listening, peace
Have a
out.
great night, guys.